In Konoha the opening game plays as Jikuni Yuanichi Chapter 376-400. Chapter 376. What is your name? What's the matter with you? After hearing Shari's words, the woman slowly sighed. My name is Izumi Narumi. I am also being chased by them, but I am actually a good person. Izumi Narumi looked pitiful when she spoke. But she secretly looked at what the man in front of her said, but she didn't believe it at all. Do you think what he said is true? Hitaki Kusuo didn't believe what Izumi Narumi said. Although Izumi Narumi explained that he was a ninja from the sand village and didn't know why he was being chased. But Hitaki Kusuo didn't believe what he said. However, Shari was deceived by Izumi Narumi's green tea appearance. Seeing after this scene, Kusuo Hitaki didn't want to explain anymore. It won't take long for Kusuo Hitaki to expose his purpose. A week later, Kusuo Hitaki looked at the roster, which had a full 100 names, including 71 men and 29 women, all of whom were Chunin ninjas. After Kusuo Hitaki personally investigated each one, he had an understanding of the strength of each person. He thought that the strongest Chunin ninjas thought that the rest were Chunin ninjas, and most of them were just strong and agile, and could not accurately control and use chakra. After the training, select a few reliable people, give them some pills, and let them have a taste of the sweetness. Shari said, most people just want to live a better life. A few who want to practice can be trained. Hitaki Kusuo thought, these people are not ordinary people. It may be difficult to manage 100 people training together. Who should train them? The two of you looked at me and I looked at you. Shari smiled and said, let Izumi Narumi go. She should like to do this kind of thing. Hitaki Kusuo frowned and said, it's worth a try, but I'm a little worried about those people. The four big characters, Taoyuan security, were written on the tall wooden door. The carriage stopped in the empty parking lot and 3 people got off the car. It's here. Kusuo Hitaki pointed to a small independent building in the distance, that's where you live. It has all the living facilities. Just tell Tsunami if you need anything. Izumi Narumi walked on the gravel road holding Xiaobai and said lightly, for all 100 people under my control. Izumi Narumi was extremely excited, thinking that these people were his new toys. But he never expected that all this was actually a trap set by Kusuo Hitaki. Kusuo Hitaki also hoped that Izumi Narumi was a normal person. But if Izumi Narumi couldn't pass this test, Kusuo Hitaki would kill him without hesitation. The training period is 2 weeks. You have to tell these people everything. Hitaki Kusuo said, don't hurt them. Got it. Izumi Narumi said, remember to ask the canteen to cook my favorite dishes every day. The sound of the carriage gradually faded away. Izumi Narumi watched the carriage disappear at the end of the road, raised the corner of his mouth, and said to himself, now there is something fun. The next day at noon, everyone had lunch in the restaurant. The sound of the horn sounded in the factory area, and a girl's voice appeared in everyone's ears. All the bodyguards of the Little Star Ninja Village, I am your administrator, now everyone gather at the practice field. The jingling training ground is a roofed factory building covering an area of thousands of square meters. There are many wooden training props and several rings in the empty factory building. Inside the door of the factory building is a 1-meter high and several meter long platform. At this time, Izumi Narumi is standing on it, counting the number of people. The people under the stage gathered in 2s and 3s, looking at the girl on the stage in confusion, whispering. Who is this girl? She looks like the one in the loudspeaker just now. She is pretty, but I wonder if she is wild. Izumi Narumi ignored the whispers of the crowd and counted the number of people. Why are there 10 people missing? They are all sleeping in the dormitory. One person shouted, why did the beauty call us all here? Are you going to perform for everyone? There was a burst of laughter from the crowd. Awu tilde, Xiaobai stared at the person who was talking and called in Izumi Narumi's arms. Hinata Yu looked carefully at the white pet held by the girl on the stage and said in surprise, summoning beast. Summoning beasts are rare and difficult to be tamed. It seems that this girl who looks about the same age as herself is not an ordinary person. But why is there no chakra fluctuation on her body? Hinata Yu is puzzled. Who will call those 10 people over? Izumi Narumi said. Beauty, I'll go call them. Let me go. After a while, 10 people came over leisurely. Oh, if I had known it was a little beauty, I would have come over. One person laughed. You 10 people come to the front. Izumi Narumi's crisp voice came, and 10 people walked to the stage, looking at the girl in confusion. Chapter 377. I am your administrator, and everyone in the Little Star Ninja Village will listen to me in the future. Izumi Narumi smiled, and her outstanding appearance attracted many people's attention. The obedient will be rewarded, and the disobedient will be punished. Hina Yu curled her lips. Until now, she didn't know why her sister asked her to come to this security guard. She said that she wanted to temper her character. She didn't think that this girl of the same age as her had any ability to manage these people. Everyone laughed. If I am punished by the little beauty, I am willing. One person shouted, causing another round of laughter. Really? Izumi Narumi smiled. I tilted just like you like this. The invisible aura emanated from the girl's body, covering everyone in this space. The 10 people closest to the girl could not bear the pressure of the aura and knelt down on her body. Everyone was shocked and felt a little breathless. The air seemed to be filled with the smell of blood. Several ninjas of the Chunin level jumped their eyelids and looked at the girl on the stage in surprise. Junin. A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s broke out in cold sweat on his back. The aura of this little girl exuded a bloody smell, which was the aura of killing many people. The old man secretly thought that this was simply a witch. Junin. Hinata Yu widened his eyes and looked at the girl in disbelief. His cultivation talent was outstanding, but he was only a Chunin. This girl was actually at the foundation establishment stage, and she was about the same age as him. How is this possible? Be obedient. Izumi Narumi stroked Xiaobai's fur and said softly, my name is Izumi Narumi. Brother Hitaki Kusuo asked me not to hurt you, but if you annoy me. A harsh friction sound came, and a wooden man next to him turned into sawdust on the ground. Everyone's eyelids jumped, and there was silence for a while. Is it okay to let Izumi Narumi manage the security guard? Shari heard that Hitaki Kusuo asked Izumi Narumi to go to the security guard, and couldn't help asking. Kusuo Hitaki shrugged, do you still want me to go? It's not serious. What did the Akatsuki organization say? They said that if we are willing to pay more, they can send a mercenary group. Can it be guaranteed to be foolproof? Konkuro took a deep puff of cigarette. Such a small figure can't be handled. You go and do it. When that person named Kusuo Hitaki dies, you can tell me again. Second uncle, don't worry. Qian Tong smiled and said, their mercenary group has killed a super shadow-level strongman. The Shihaya Inn in the main city of Bear Country is the largest inn. The inn is managed by the 5 major countries and is usually not open to the public. Only dignitaries are qualified to enter here. A few days ago, the daimyo Murakami Shang of Bear Country sent an invitation letter to the nobles of the upper class of Bear Country, inviting everyone to attend the engagement ceremony of his daughter Murakami Tomi. Murakami Yu has a background in the imperial capital. His only daughter Murakami Dame's fiancé is the young master of Shihai Yuntian Group. The two will hold a wedding in 3 months. Today's engagement party is full of luxury. The dignitaries of Shihai have appeared one after another, and the atmosphere at the venue is very lively. The yachts on the lake are decorated with brilliant lights, the beauties in the swimming pool are laughing and playing, and the band is playing moving music on the lawn. Shari is holding Hitaki Kusuo's arm. The white evening dress makes her already outstanding face look more charming. Do you think my hairstyle is okay? Shari took out a small mirror and looked at herself in the mirror with a $1 million outfit. She couldn't help but raise the corner of her mouth and reveal her white teeth. Request flowers, so many beauties. Shari's eyes sparkled. General Murakami Yu is so prestigious that he invited so many celebrities. Look, isn't that Professor Liu? Painter Li is here too. I heard that he rarely attends such events. On the flower stand in the distance, a group of people with extraordinary temperament stood beside Murakami Yu. Welcome all friends to my daughter's engagement ceremony. Raising his glass, Murakami Yu shouted heroically, I toast everyone. 0 inches good. Everyone raised their glasses and drank together. Congratulations to Mr. Murakami for getting a good son-in-law. Beside Murakami Yu, a woman dressed in noble clothes stood tall and graceful. Standing there, she became the focus of everyone. A handsome man held her hand, looking very happy, as if he was a romantic and unrestrained beautiful boy. Is that Murakami Tomi? Shari looked up. She is worthy of being the daughter of Lord Murakami. She is really a fairy from heaven. Shari's voice reached the ears of several people around, and several people echoed, yes, look at Murakami Tomi, I have never seen such a beautiful girl. Hitaki Kusuo curled his lips and whispered to Shari, is it necessary to flatter so much? Can Murakami-san hear you flattering from such a distance? Shari shrugged, said nothing, and walked forward with a glass of wine. What a lively engagement ceremony. Shari envied. Our engagement ceremony is much simpler than this. Gotti. Hitaki Kusuo put his arm around Shari's waist. Murakami-san is really generous, do you see the old man behind him? Huh. She. Chapter 378. Quan Chungmei said casually, but Aside still saw a trace of worry on his face. Because people like them live on the edge of a knife every day. So, they are very familiar with the red breath in front of them. Such a breath will only appear on a person who is a murderer. However, the woman in front of them does not look like a murderer no matter how you look at it. But this breath is so familiar. But it is really strange that such a breath appears here. Aside said. At this time, Aside's eyes were full of fear, and the evil 910 breath of Izumi Chungmei became more and more intense. Even Izumi Chungmei's heart sank suddenly. Didn't the previous information say that he came to kill a man named Hitaki Kusuo? It didn't say that he was a gangster, so why was it so terrifying to meet someone around him? The red breath around Izumi Chungmei was already blood red, clearly visible to the naked eye. Even Izumi Chungmei and Aside were shocked. This breath was like a killing god coming. However, Quan Chungmei has been on the battlefield for many years, so she still has the mentality of keeping calm in the face of danger. Little girl, if you bow your head like me now, I can consider leaving you a whole body. After saying this, Quan Chungmei laughed up to the sky, and the smile was full of arrogance. And Quan Chungmei still looked at the man in front of him with an indifferent face. Two people. At this time, the other novices nearby have already fought with the group of mercenaries. Boss, this woman has been silent all the time, could she be a female devil? It happened to be Izumi Chungmei, and her silence really scared Ost. Really? If she is a female devil, it would be great. Izumi Chungmei sneered, this little girl is pretty, if she is a female devil, I can really try her out. After hearing this, Izumi Chungmei's face showed a trace of doubt. Try something new. What does it mean? If you come here to cause trouble, I will just kill you. If you come to eat, I don't have it here. Izumi Chungmei thought for a long time before saying this. Ost heard this and immediately coughed twice in embarrassment. It seems that what the boss said is really right. This woman should not be a female devil. It is more reliable to say that she is a dementia. Before Ost could react, Quan Chungmei rushed forward. Let me see who you are. Quan Chungmei roared, and her fist immediately hit Izumi Narumi's face. Izumi Narumi turned sideways and dodged the punch. Hinata Yu, who was standing by, took out a pistol at this time, and fired 3 shots at Izumi Narumi's head. Izumi Narumi frowned immediately. It seemed different from her original plan. Quan Chungmei was also directly angered by this action. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo and Shari were drinking tea together. Shari's cell phone suddenly rang. Oh no. Shari immediately stood up and said. Hitaki Kusuo was confused, not knowing what he meant by this. What's wrong? Hitaki Kusuo frowned and asked. Something happened to Izumi Narumi. But after saying this, Kusuo Hitaki frowned. The task he gave to Izumi Narumi was to manage the security guard. Could it be that someone had offended the door? Let's go and take a look first. Kusuo Hitaki was a little confused. Why did the call go to Shari? However, looking at Shari's expression, Kusuo Hitaki understood that this matter must be not simple. As soon as the two of them went out, the car had already stopped at the door. Kusuo Hitaki didn't think much about it and got into the car with Shari. The car galloped all the way and went straight to the direction of the guard. But when the two of them arrived at the guard, they found that the guard was in a mess, and there was no trace of the previous appearance. What's going on? Kusuo Hitaki asked with a frown. Suddenly, Kusuo Hitaki felt a very terrifying breath. Even Shari, who was standing next to him, had a solemn face. What's going on? Why are you hiding something from me? Hitaki Kusuo looked at Shari, his face was unhappy. Looking in the direction of Shari's eyes, Hitaki Kusuo found that at this time, in the square, there was a girl with red chakra burning all over her body. Hitaki Kusuo looked carefully and found that the face was very familiar. It was Izumi Narumi. What's going on? But before Hitaki Kusuo could figure out what was going on, Izumi Narumi had already rushed in front of Hitaki Kusuo. Izumi Narumi. Without waiting for Hitaki Kusuo to call out Izumi Narumi's name, Izumi Narumi punched Hitaki Kusuo in the chest. Hitaki Kusuo covered his chest and took several steps back before he stopped. Natsuhi, who was standing next to him, also stood in front of Hitaki Kusuo. The content of the conversation just now was very simple. I just informed Shari that not only was there a problem with the escort team, but for some reason, Izumi Narumi seemed to be out of control. Chapter 379. When Shari heard that Izumi Narumi was out of control, he realized that the problem was definitely not as simple as he had imagined. Shari didn't dare to explain to Hitaki Kusuo without understanding the situation, so he rushed over with Hitaki Kusuo in a hurry. But what Shari didn't expect was that when the two of them arrived, the situation had reached an irreversible state. Especially looking at Izumi Narumi now, it was a posture that Hitaki Kusuo had never seen before. Hitaki Kusuo never thought that Izumi Narumi would lose control and become like this now. Now Hitaki Kusuo didn't know what to do. And Shari, who was standing aside, looked at Izumi Narumi with a serious face. At this moment, Izumi Narumi was like a layer of red mist constantly surrounding Izumi Narumi, and his eyes were full of coldness when he looked at Izumi Narumi. It seems like a person without any emotion. Although Izumi Narumi usually has this posture, 06 Izumi Narumi is not as terrifying as she is now. Izumi Narumi, what's wrong with you? Hitaki Kusuo covered his chest and looked up at Izumi Narumi. Izumi Narumi raised a terrifying smile at the corner of his mouth, raised his right hand in the air, and suddenly chopped it down with a palm. Hitaki Kusuo suddenly felt a strong force on his left shoulder. When he looked up, a gap had been split where he had just stood. And the person who just pushed on Hitaki Kusuo's left shoulder was Shari. Hitaki Kusuo, Izumi Narumi doesn't know who we are now. After hearing what Izumi Narumi said, Kusuo Hitaki's heart sank. It seemed that the most dangerous thing had happened. From this angle, you can directly see the situation inside the guard team. At this moment, the guard team was in chaos. There were many unfamiliar people lying on the ground. From the clothes worn by some of them, it can be seen that they should be members of the mercenary group. And the others, judging from their clothes, should be the guard ninjas who had just been recruited here. Kusuo Hitaki was shocked and suddenly thought of Shinkong. Kusuo Hitaki promised Shinkong's sister that he would take good care of Shinkong. We can't let Shinkong have a fatal encounter not long after arriving here. Hinata Yu. Kusuo Hitaki rushed towards the crowd regardless of everything and finally found the trembling Hinata Yu in a corner. How are you? At this moment, Hinata Yu had no strength to speak, and his body was shaking constantly. Even his eyes were a little dazed. Just as Hitaki Kusuo was about to help Hinata Yu, he heard Shari's curse. Fuck you, Hitaki Kusuo. Why don't you come to help me? What are you waiting for? When he turned around, Hitaki Kusuo was shocked. Shari had been pressed down by Izumi Narumi and couldn't move at all. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo was in a dilemma. On one side, Shinkong needed to be rescued by himself. On the other side, Shari also needed to be rescued by his friend. This dilemma was really annoying. Shinkong, you stay here and wait for me. I'll go to rescue people and come back to find you soon. After saying this, Kusuo Hitaki rushed out, and his body rushed towards Shari. But when Kusuo Hitaki looked at Narumi Izumi and Shari again, The two of them didn't know what to do. Izumi was now all red, and a trace of demonic energy began to gradually emerge in her pupils. It's bad, she is deeply controlled by the curse. Kusuo Hatake sighed in his heart. But even so, Kusuo Hatake couldn't do it to Narumi Izumi. Looking at Narumi Izumi's face, even Kusuo Hatake felt a little heartbroken. It was he who asked Narumi Izumi to protect this place. And Kusuo Hatake naturally understood in his heart that these mercenaries must be coming for him today. It was because he was not here that Narumi Izumi was implicated. Sure. A shout came from the side. A woman in red clothes suddenly fell from the sky and landed beside the two of them. But Izumi Narumi, when this woman appeared, her whole body suddenly became more restless. How dare you, a witch, hurt others here? The visitor was not polite at all, and directly stretched out a hand and drew a red talisman in the air. Red binding threads suddenly appeared around Izumi Narumi's body. The body of Izumi Narumi was pulled tightly to the side, unable to move. Who are you? Let Izumi Narumi go quickly. After saying this, Kusuo Hatake rushed forward and fought with the woman. When the woman saw Kusuo Hatake taking action, she frowned suddenly, but with a flick of her hand, a curse suddenly appeared in front of Kusuo Hatake, and a powerful force made Kusuo Hatake retreat several steps in succession. This force is so strong. Kusuo Hatake said secretly in his heart. Shari saw Kusuo Hatake being beaten, and he immediately got angry, especially when he saw that the woman also hurt Narumi Izumi. Chapter 380. For example, him. This even touched Shari's bottom line. I think you are a female demon. After the words fell, Shari rushed to the woman's side and circled the spine behind the woman. A huge chakra spread around along the injured area. From this, it can be seen that Shari had no feelings when he attacked just now. The woman frowned, looked back at Shari, and waved her fingers in the air again. Kia's body suddenly moved to the place where Shari stood just now, which has now become a huge deep pit. This person is so fierce and vicious, I don't know where he came from. But at this time, because of the move just now, Hatake Kusuo's body was temporarily unable to move. Seeing this, Shari immediately ran to Hatake Kusuo's side and put his hand on the place where Hatake Kusuo's chest was seriously injured. But the moment Shari's hand was placed there, Shari's face suddenly changed. The power flowing on it is extremely powerful. Although it is just an ordinary spell, the power contained in it is extremely terrifying. Even Shari can clearly feel such power. Ordinary people can't break free at all. Looking at Izumi Narumi beside him, well, at this moment, the demonic energy around Izumi Narumi has not diminished at all, but has become more intense, but the red solid lines that bind Izumi Narumi have no intention of letting Izumi Narumi go. Shari stretched out his hand and pointed at Izumi Narumi in the air. An extremely powerful chakra immediately wrapped around Izumi Narumi's body and launched a strong confrontation with the red silk threads. But even so, the red silk threads still did not change at all. What kind of chakra is this? Shari couldn't help but frown, because such the power has never been seen before. You have been controlled so deeply by the curse, why do you have to protect women? The woman in red actually spoke. Hongguang and Shari finally breathed a sigh of relief when they heard the woman speak. At least they could judge that the woman should not be a member of the hired mercenary group. This person is my friend, not the female demon leader you are looking for. Hatake Kusuo explained. But the woman in red did not seem to take what Hatake Kusuo said seriously. She was still determined to bind Izumi Narumi here. It is useless to say more. If you two doubt to protect this female demon leader, I will take you both down today. Hatake Kusuo was shocked. The matter of the Yuzuki family has not been resolved yet, and here comes another woman in red whose identity is unknown. If you don't let this woman go, I will attack you. Hatake Kusuo looked at the woman in red coldly, and his fingers began to approach the blade. Kusuo Hatake knew that if he cut the knife into the body of the woman in red in front of him, even if the woman's strength was extremely mysterious, she was no match for this move. But when Kusuo Hatake was gathering chakra in his hand, the woman in red glanced at Kusuo Hatake and waved his palm. Suddenly, Kusuo Hatake's palm was controlled by some red thread-like objects. and the petals formed by the chakra in Kusuo Hataki's palm naturally had no way to be released. What is this move? When Kusuo Hataki was surprised by this move, the woman in red did not notice that Narumi Izumi behind her had already broken free. Ah! The woman in red screamed. Narumi Izumi. Kusuo Hataki naturally knew that it was Narumi Izumi who had just made the move. When he was entangled with the woman in red, Narumi Izumi had already broken free. The red-dressed woman and Izumi Narumi wrestled with each other, and Kusuo Hataki, who was standing by, had already been bound by a spell on his body. So he couldn't join the fight for a while. Bastard. Kusuo Hataki cursed in his heart, but at this time Kusuo Hataki had no way to join the fight. 5-element sealing technique, forbidden. The woman stretched out her palm and chopped Izumi Narumi's chest, but at this moment, Izumi Narumi had no intention of dodging, and hit the woman's palm head-on. After a loud bang, the bodies of the two retreated at the same time. The demonic energy around Izumi Narumi gradually weakened, and the red-dressed woman before also fell directly to the ground at this moment, unable to move at all. I won't ask. Kusuo Hataki frowned and looked at the two people in front of him. At this time, Izumi Narumi had returned to normal. But I don't know what happened to Izumi Narumi just now. As the red-dressed woman married Kusuo Hataki, the red threads bound around her body began to fade away. Who is this woman? Kusuo Hataki frowned and looked at Shari, but Shari was also thinking about the identity of the red-dressed woman. Let's tie this woman up first, and we'll talk about the rest later. After Kusuo Hataki finished speaking, Shari stepped forward and tied the woman up with a rope. Chapter 381. But in the process of tying her up, Shari suddenly found a phoenix totem on the woman's body. Suddenly, Shari looked at Kusuo Hataki with wide eyes, Orochimaru's Anbu. Kusuo Hataki frowned and didn't say much. Orochimaru's Anbu has been just a legend for so many years and has never appeared. But this woman actually appeared at this time, and Kusuo Hataki had such a grudge when he met her for the first time. It seems that there will be a new enemy in the future life. No matter what the origin of this group of people is, they actually attacked Izumi Narumi today, so we will never let them go in the future. Hataki Kusuo clenched his fists. This woman just attacked Hataki Kusuo, and Hataki Kusuo's heart was full of resentment. But what he didn't expect was that this woman's identity was so complicated. The matter of the Yuzuki family has not been settled yet, and a new trouble has arisen at this time. Izumi Narumi, what happened to you just now? Hataki Kusuo suddenly turned his head and looked at Izumi Narumi. Izumi Narumi's previous posture had never appeared before, and Hataki Kusuo had always been puzzled about it. But Izumi Narumi shook his head with a look of ignorance. Don't you remember anything about what happened just now? By the way, are those people okay? There were people from the mercenary group just coming over. Izumi Narumi suddenly widened his eyes, grabbed Hataki Kusuo's shoulders tightly with both hands, and then let go and ran towards the direction where the mercenary group appeared. But when Izumi Narumi walked there, seeing the mess, Izumi Narumi's steps gradually slowed down. Who did this? Izumi Narumi couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. Those who fell to the ground included not only the mercenaries, but also the security guards. Especially when Shinkong saw Izumi Narumi coming over, his whole body began to tremble. Don't come over, don't come over. Shinkong kept repeating the same sentence. This scene was also seen by Kusuo Hataki who was standing by. Kusuo Hataki flashed and appeared beside Shinkong. Okay, it's okay. However, even with Kusuo Hataki's comfort, Shinkong still couldn't control his emotions and his body was shaking. What happened before? Kusuo Hataki looked up at Narumi Izumi, but Narumi Izumi's expression was very confused. It seemed that Narumi Izumi had no memory of what had just happened. Only Shinkong, who kept pointing his finger at Narumi Izumi, muttered. Female devil. Kusuo Hataki immediately stretched out a finger to block Shinkong's mouth. Don't say that again in the future. Shinkong had recovered some of his consciousness at this moment, and immediately closed his mouth and said no more. Narumi Izumi, You go back and rest first. Leave the things here to me. Kusuo Hitaki slowly stood up and looked at the bodies of the mercenaries. All the dead were undoubtedly dead. Even most of the mercenaries died with their eyes open. Hitaki Kusuo could feel the strength of this mercenary group, which was much stronger than those who came to him before. But it can be seen from the equipment they led, and these mercenaries also exuded chakra. It can be seen that they should all be ninjas. Such a powerful mercenary group died in an unclear way. The security personnel recruited by the escort team also suffered many casualties, and Hitaki Kusuo had to go to deal with the injured for a while. Shari, where is the woman in red just now? I have something to ask her. The woman is in the house now and has woken up. If you have anything to say, just go and ask her. Shari's face turned pale, but Hitaki Kusuo did not notice this detail at this time. When he walked into the house with Hitaki Kusuo, he found that the woman looked forward with a dull look in her eyes, and her hands were tied very firmly. Because Shari had just seen how the woman performed her magic, he naturally knew that he had to tie the woman's fingers tightly. Why did you come to me? The red-dressed woman's voice was very cold. Introduce yourself. After Hitaki Kusuo asked this, the woman snorted coldly, people like you, who are with those controlled by the curse, if you want to attack me, just do it. Hitaki Kusuo saw this and couldn't help but smile. He really didn't expect that the woman would have such courage. You don't even know who we are, so you are so eager to make a conclusion. Hitaki Kusuo didn't want to cause too much trouble for himself, especially Orochimaru's Anbu. Hitaki Kusuo knew very little about them. Now there is Anpei who hasn't been dealt with yet, and there is another Orochimaru Anbu. It's really troublesome. This made Shari not mentally prepared. Chapter 382. Hitaki Kusuo was not in a hurry when he saw this scene, but Shari was indeed a little anxious. As the saying goes, if a gangster knows martial arts, no one can stop him. Although the chakras of Hitaki Kusuo and Shari are both relatively strong, who knows where so many people will fight. Soon, the whole room became a state of chaos. Hitaki Kusuo and Shari, the two men have always been lenient, and did not attack their weak points at all. Because they both suspected that this was the person sent by Orochimaru's Anbu to test them. Oh no, there are too many people in Hitaki Kusuo. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo was also busy and in a dilemma in the chaos. The opponent's attack was always in the weak point. If it weren't for Hitaki Kusuo, if the two of them wanted to attack in time, they might have died here by now. If they continue to do this, I will use my real strength. When Shari heard Hitaki Kusuo say this, he was shocked. Because Shari did not expect Hitaki Kusuo to be unable to bear it in such a short time. In fact, Hitaki Kusuo had tried his best, because both of them were more or less injured. Hitaki Kusuo's face suddenly darkened, and he continued to condense the chakra in his hand. Waving forward, the people holding kitchen knives in front of him suddenly stepped back several steps. Hitaki Kusuo, be careful, don't kill me. Shari's reminder came from the side. Chakra release. The rough man holding a kitchen knife roared, and suddenly the whole body was covered with light blue chakra. When Hitaki Kusuo and the other saw the chakra of this color, their eyes were full of surprise. They had only seen chakra with color on Izumi Narumi. However, although the colored chakra appeared on Izumi Narumi's body, it also brought great trouble to Izumi Narumi. Hitaki Kusuo, what is going on? When Shari saw the colored chakra, she became very nervous. They really didn't expect that the people in Orochimaru's Anbu were such weird characters. Ah! The big man with blue chakra roared and rushed towards Hitaki Kusuo's body. Came over. At this time, only Kusuo Hitaki had ordinary chakra burning on his body. Kusuo Hitaki, you must be more careful, the identities of these people are definitely not simple. Shari kept reminding. But Kusuo Hitaki knew that it was useless to say these words now. He must fight them now. With a loud bang, Kusuo Hitaki's figure immediately retreated several steps in succession. Looking at the big man just now, he only retreated 2 steps. This guy is so strong. Kusuo Hitaki sighed in his heart. It seems that they did underestimate the strength of Orochimaru's Anbu before they came. But even so, Kusuo Hatake and the others are most worried about the safety of Narumi Izumi. Narumi Izumi is not by their side at the moment, but what Kusuo Hatake is most worried about when they are fighting with these people is that Narumi Izumi will come to them without knowing it. Before, red chakra had appeared on the mountain of Izumi Narumi, but at that time, Orochimaru's Anbu sent people to capture Izumi Narumi. 0 Please send flowers Hatake. Kusuo was worried that if Izumi Narumi saw this scene, the red chakra in her body might get out of control again. Hatake Kusuo didn't want Izumi Narumi to be trapped in this place. What should I do with these people now? Shari was resisting the attacks of these people with his left and right punches. Hatake Kusuo didn't know what to do for a while, and now the whole room was in a mess. What was unexpected was that although the strength of this group of people was very strong, they were very tacit when they didn't attack. From this, it can be seen that they should not have cooperated with each other before, especially the big man with blue chakra who just took the lead. This big man stopped intervening after fighting with Hatake Kusuo. Instead, there was only one person holding a knife standing at the back. After a fight, Kusuo Hatake seemed to have found a pattern in his mind. Every time this group of people attacked, the big man behind them must be standing. Just now, when Kusuo Hatake fought with this big man, the group of people in front of him did not move. From this, it can be inferred that only one person can move between these people and the big man. You besiege these people now, and leave the big man with blue chakra behind to me. Kusuo Hatake came to Shari's side during the battle and whispered. Although Shari didn't know what Kusuo Hatake was thinking, she nodded slightly. Then you must be careful when you go. Kusuo Hatake also nodded gently as a response. The two entered their respective areas to fight. Chapter 383. According to the previous division of labor between the two, Kusuo Hatake now attacked the big man with blue chakra alone, and the rest of the people were always handed over to Shari. When Kusuo Hatake rushed towards the big man immediately raised the kitchen knife in his hand, swung the big knife and chopped it fiercely, and the blade danced from top to bottom with great vigor. Seeing that the knife was about to hit him, Kusuo Hatake quickly dodged sideways. But at the same time, Shari got a staged victory. The fact is exactly what Kusuo Hatake thought. When the blue chakra big man attacked, the other 913 big men's attacking movements suddenly stopped. I think you should be careful. Only one of these people can move. The others are all controlled by him. After Kusuo Hatake discovered this scene, he immediately shouted at Shari. However, Kusuo Hatake's attention was distracted when he said this. The blue chakra, the big man punched Kusuo Hatake in the chest. A very strange chakra suddenly rushed into Kusuo Hatake's body. The light blue chakra seemed to carry a cold breath, and Kusuo Hatake's whole body was immediately frozen with goosebumps. Kusuo Hatake, are you okay? Seeing this, Shari quickly broke through the siege and came to Kusuo Hatake's side. When the big men behind saw Kusuo Hatake and Shari, the two gathered together again and hurriedly blocked Shari and the others. Kusuo Hatake stood up after a long time, and when Kusuo Hatake opened his eyes, Shari was standing with this group of people. And Shari gradually lost the upper hand. It was not because Shari's strength was not strong enough, but because these people's abilities were too strange. These big men with weapons immediately regained the upper hand. Shari, you have to be careful, there is only one person who controls these people. That's the one with blue chakra just now. After hearing the voice, Shari looked back and saw that Kusuo Hatake had already woken up. At the beginning, Shari had heard what Hatake Kusuo said, so Shari had been doing her best to protect Hatake Kusuo. Hatake Kusuo fell into a coma. Even if Shari knew that the person with blue chakra was the leader, she had no ability to rush to that person. Hurry up and help me. I am no match for them now. Hatake Kusuo immediately stood up and started fighting with Shari and the others again. But to Hatake Kusuo, what puzzled Kusuo was that he had been unconscious for a long time just now. But I don't know why these people didn't kill him. Although there were many scars on the two of them, none of them were fatal. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes suddenly turned red and suddenly shrank a lot. This matter seems to be a trick. Hitaki Kusuo muttered in a low voice, but Shari beside him didn't buy it. What's there to stand on in this matter? Now my life is about to die, and you still tell me that there is a trick. For a while, Kusuo Hitaki was choked and didn't know what to say. Indeed, Shari suffered a lot during the time when Kusuo Hitaki was unconscious. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the big man with blue chakra beside him. Kusuo Hitaki dodged and immediately rushed behind the big man and punched the big man in the chest. Because the speed that Kusuo Hitaki just used was extremely fast, the big man with blue chakra didn't react at all. He was immediately knocked to the ground by Kusuo Hitaki's punch. But when he fell to the ground, the other burly men in the room who were holding weapons stopped their attacks at the same time. A group of people stood in the room, like puppets. Shari was surprised when she saw the scene in front of her. Because Kusuo Hitaki never thought that someone could actually practice such a spell. Just when everyone was embarrassed, the door of their room was suddenly opened by another woman. Not bad. Not bad, I just tried your strength. I didn't expect your abilities to be so loving. The voice of the woman who entered the room today. Kusuo Hitaki looked up and saw that it was the woman who greeted them downstairs that day. Kusuo Hitaki felt that this person's identity must be extraordinary, although the information said that this person was a role leading the Anbu of Orochimaru here. But Kusuo Hitaki imagined that his identity was definitely not as ordinary as described in the information. Facts have proved that Kusuo Hitaki's idea is correct. Since you have passed my test, then you can come with me. Someone wants to see you. Hitaki Kusuo and Natsuhi, after hearing this, their eyes suddenly became more alert. The two of them came here, and their main mission was to investigate Orochimaru as an undercover agent. Chapter 384. However, under such circumstances, someone actually asked to see them, which means that the other party may have known that their roles were not simple. At this time, Izumi Narumi was walking outside alone, not with them. It is also possible that Izumi Narumi has been kidnapped by the other party. This strong sense of insecurity immediately filled the hearts of the two of them. But Hitaki Kusuo and Natsuhi did not say much, just looked at each other and nodded. The woman saw that Hitaki Kusuo agreed so readily, and turned around and left the house directly. But after walking a few steps, she found that Hitaki Kusuo and the other man did not catch up. The woman frowned and turned back to walk into the house. Since you two have already promised me, why don't you leave now? You haven't introduced to us who we are going to meet, and you don't even want to reveal the other party's identity. Why should we follow you? Shari answered straightforwardly, without any intention of hiding anything. This place was their first time here, and it was where Orochimaru's Anbu people were. Shari knew very well that if the other party wanted to do something to him, he and Hitaki Kusuo would definitely not be able to escape. Hitaki Kusuo raised a satisfied smile at the corner of his mouth. It seemed that what Shari said was exactly what Hitaki Kusuo was thinking. After knowing each other for such a long time, the two of them now cooperated very well. Shari only needed a look from Hitaki Kusuo to understand what he was thinking. But after hearing this, the woman frowned. I only said I would take you two away. I didn't say I could tell you the identity of the person who wanted to see you now. When he heard the woman speak like this, Kusuo Hitaki suddenly became more restless. It seems that you are really good at putting on airs. We too have just joined your Orochimaru Anbu, and you are treating us like this now. It seems that the people in your Orochimaru Anbu are just some hypocritical organizations with a good reputation. After the woman coaxed me with these words, she frowned, obviously very dissatisfied with Kusuo Hitaki's bad words about Orochimaru Anbu. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the woman with a disgusted expression, and suddenly felt a lot of joy in her heart. What she didn't expect was that the woman fell into the trap so easily. Kusuo Hitaki just wanted to know the secret in the woman's heart. If the woman didn't tell him who wanted to see them, the two Kusuo Hitaki would never follow her. After all, Orochimaru Anbu was a place where they were unfamiliar with everyone, and they might encounter any kind of danger with just the two of them. To know the other party's identity, You just need to know that they want to find you too for something. But what Hitaki Kusuo didn't expect was that even with this method, he still couldn't get rid of it. The woman's mouth knocked out any news. At this time, Shari gently touched Kusuo Hitaki, with a provocative look in his eyes. Huowo waved his hand to indicate that Shari was not the time to force it. If Shari forced to take action here, the two of them might die here. After all, the strength of Orochimaru's Anbu was extremely strange, and even the trick he just saw was never heard of. Under this situation of unknown enemy situation, Kusuo Hitaki knew that the best choice was not to take action. If he took action easily at this time, who knows what the consequences might be. If we don't take action again, maybe this woman will do something bad to us. Shari said in a very low voice beside Kusuo Hitaki's ear. Don't worry, I'm definitely not harming you, and the identity of the person who is looking for you is also very mysterious, so I can't tell you. When the woman finished speaking, Kusuo Hitaki and Shari were shocked. Just now, Shari's voice was very low, and it was covered by Hitaki Kusuo's chakra. If it were someone else, they would definitely not be able to hear anything. I didn't expect that this woman, who seemed mediocre, actually had such ability. Is there anything else to discuss now? The woman's voice sounded very gentle, but that feeling made the two of them feel extremely scared. The identity of this woman was as unfathomable as a huge abyss. To fight against Hitaki Kusuo with such an opponent, he did not have enough confidence for the time being. Since someone wants to see me, then take me. After Hitaki Kusuo finished speaking, he waved to Shari, and the two immediately followed him out. After letting them go out, a carriage happened to be parked outside. Two gentlemen, please get in the carriage. The woman pulled open the curtain and bowed respectfully to Hitaki Kusuo and Shari. Hitaki Kusuo was not polite this time and got on the carriage directly. Shari saw that Hitaki Kusuo was so generous, and after sighing, he also got on the car. Chapter 385. But when the two of them just sat in the back seat, two burly men came up on the left and right. At the same time, two sacks were directly put on their heads. Hitaki Kusuo was about to use his collective chakra to resist, but suddenly he felt a very cold object on his waist. It was a gun. Shari, who was standing by, also felt the same treatment, and the two were surprised and didn't know what to do. What do you mean? Hitaki Kusuo said coldly. The familiar female voice came from the front row. The place we are going to today cannot be guided by our way for the time being, so I'll work hard on you on this road. Hitaki Kusuo was extremely confused in his heart. He really didn't know what kind of character the other party was, and he could actually have such means. The carriage drove very smoothly all the way. They didn't encounter attacks like they did when they went to Audiobook before. Instead, the journey was very peaceful, but this was indeed beyond Hitaki Kusuo's expectation. But no one spoke along the way. Until he felt a heavy force at last, Hitaki Kusuo realized that he had arrived. Although the car had arrived, no one had taken off the sacks on their heads. Now we have arrived, do you two have any questions for me? If so, just tell me now. The familiar voice of the woman came from the front row again. What do you mean by saying this to us? Now that we have arrived, why do you have to tell us again? A helpless smile appeared at the corner of Hitaki Kusuo's mouth. Always with Hitaki Kusuo's strength, there is no way to fight this woman now. After all, as long as Hitaki Kusuo's chakra moves a little, the gun on his waist will shoot down directly. Hitaki Kusuo still does not have enough confidence to fight a stranger. After arriving here, Hitaki Kusuo was even more surprised at the power of Orochimaru's Anbu. It seems that it is no wonder that Orochimaru's Anbu has such a strong power. And Izumi Narumi is extremely powerful. When Izumi Narumi met the woman in red clothes, she was defeated. It can be seen from something that Orochimaru's Anbu is a place where crouching tigers and hidden dragons are hidden. However, Hitaki Kusuo has had little contact with the people in Orochimaru's Anbu for so many years, and I don't know what the identity of the people in Orochimaru's Anbu is. After all, the gentleman who wants to find you today still doesn't want you to ask too many nonsense, so if you have any questions, just ask me and I will answer your questions. The gentleman only wants to talk to you about an important matter, and he will send you away after the talk. Hitaki Kusuo suddenly understood that the man was worried that there would be some conflicts between them, so he solved the matter in advance. There are such arrogant people in this world, and Hitaki Kusuo couldn't help but be curious about this person's identity. At least you should tell me where this place is. I'm sorry, we have been taped and we can't tell you about this matter. And you will still be covered when you come back later. Hitaki Kusuo heard this. After that, I felt relieved. Because Kusuo Hitaki was thinking about countermeasures when he went to the city, Hongguang didn't try too hard to remember the driving method of this road. But if he still took this road when he went back, Kusuo Hitaki could remember this road by his own ability. When he thought of this, Kusuo Hitaki immediately raised a satisfied smile on his face, but at this moment, the face of Dusk was under the sack, and the woman couldn't see it. What is the matter with you looking for us? At least you can tell us. I'm sorry, I don't know about this matter yet. If there is anything important, the gentleman will naturally tell you and won't tell me in advance. After hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki felt a little speechless. He asked a few questions in total, but none of them could be answered. In that case, do you have anything else you want to tell me? The woman raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect Kusuo Hitaki to actually start asking her. Since you are not ashamed to ask, I will tell you reluctantly. The woman's voice sounded very playful, as if she was flirting with Kusuo Hitaki. The scenery in this place is very beautiful. I hope you two will be careful after getting off the car. As for more things, the guarding ninjas in this house will naturally tell you. But the premise is that you will violate their bottom line. After the woman finished speaking, the sacks on their heads were pulled off at the same time. This time Kusuo Hitaki looked up and saw that the woman was dressed very beautifully today. Looking outside again. Chapter 386. A huge palace surrounded by mountains. Kusuo Hitaki wanted to use the surrounding situation to judge their location. But looking back, the long mountain road was more than 10 kilometers long. Kusuo Hitaki began to sigh. Why there is a carriage with such good shock absorption in the world, but it can't even identify the surrounding scenery. The black-clad man beside them had already gotten out of the car and closed the door. Hitaki Kusuo sighed helplessly and got out of the car directly. Then he saw that the yard was full of countless people in black clothes. Hitaki Kusuo closed his eyes and radiated the transparent world in his body to the surroundings. But in just 1 second, Hitaki Kusuo took back all the chakra in his body. Because he had discovered that all the people standing in the yard were ninjas. Hitaki Kusuo, come out with me. Hitaki Kusuo originally planned to ask more about the woman in red, but he didn't expect that Shari outside would call him out so anxiously. After Hitaki Kusuo walked over, Shari whispered. Hitaki Kusuo, we seem to be in trouble. Hitaki Kusuo frowned. They didn't seem to have done anything excessive recently. I don't know where they made hatred again. Is it Anpei? No, all the people in their family disappeared overnight. Hitaki Kusuo widened his eyes after hearing this. How could such a big family disappear for no reason? Is the news not accurate? They should have gone out to play together. Hitaki Kusuo frowned and asked. But Izumi Narumi looked around and said to Hitaki Kusuo mysteriously. The news is true. I just received the news. And this matter seems to be related to Orochimaru's Anbu. When he heard the words, Orochimaru's Anbu, Hongbao was shocked. Now in the room behind him, there was a red-dressed woman from Orochimaru's Anbu tied up, but he didn't know what position this red-dressed woman had in Orochimaru's Anbu. Why is it Orochimaru's Anbu again? Not only that, but there is a self-proclaimed captain of the Sound Village in Linhai City, Kabuto Yakushi. He just had someone call me. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Shari in confusion when he heard the name. We don't seem to know anyone from this group, right? Shari nodded heavily. In fact, he had just heard the name of this group. Before this, Shari and them had never had any contact with people from Linhai City. I really don't know how those people found them today. What did the man who claimed to be Kabuto Yakushi say? Hitaki Kusuo frowned and looked at Shari beside him. Shari told Hitaki Kusuo all the news on the phone just now. After hearing this, the expression on Hitaki Kusuo's face became more solemn. Because Hitaki Kusuo didn't expect that the other party actually knew his details and understood them so clearly. Preface. The man named Kabuto Yakushi on the phone just now was like this, and now all the situations of Hitaki Kusuo's guards were explained one by one. At that time, Shari was also very surprised after hearing the phone call. Who do you think did this? Was it instructed by the people of the Sake family? Shari looked at Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo shook his head. The people in their family shouldn't have such great abilities. If they did, they wouldn't have disappeared as a whole family. Hitaki Kusuo didn't believe at all that their family members were missing. Logically speaking, it is very likely that she is hiding somewhere. So what do you think we should do now? Should we go to Linhai City to take a look? Just when Hitaki Kusuo and Shari were hesitating, a very powerful explosion suddenly came from behind them. And the source of the explosion was the house where the red-dressed woman had just stayed. Hitaki Kusuo and Shari ran over immediately. Of course, this matter is not as simple as they imagined. When Hitaki Kusuo opened the door, there was a thick smoke in the house, which came out directly. Hitaki Kusuo said in his heart, not good. Sure enough, when the thick smoke in the house dissipated, there was no one in the house. It seems that the red-dressed woman should have escaped with the thick smoke. It seems that we have to go to Linhai City. Hitaki Kusuo said in a deep voice. A few days later, the car was ready. Kusuo Hitaki took Shari, Izumi Narumi and others to Linhai City. As for the people who were assigned to the guard team here, Kusuo Hitaki didn't take too many with him. Besides, they had just gone through that battle, and now most of them needed to rest for a while. Kusuo Hitaki simply closed the guard team for a while, letting them recuperate here, and make plans after he came back after a while. Chapter 387. The car was very fast along the way, and they arrived at the Sound Village in a short time. When the carriage just entered the territory of the Sound Village and just got off the highway, they encountered a large group of black carriages, which directly intercepted them. Kusuo Hitaki got out of the car and looked at the people in front of him coldly, with chakra constantly circling around Kusuo Hitaki's fingertips. Shari sat in the car, without much persuasion, but looked at the other black-clothed men near the car with a very vigilant look. The cooperation between the two was very tacit. Who are you? Are you Kusuo Hitaki? The man in black asked. Kusuo Hitaki nodded. Lord Kabuto has been waiting for you for a long time. Come with me. Kusuo Hitaki did not believe the man in black just because of his short words. He just stood there and looked at him very vigilantly. How do you know where we are from? Lord Kabuto has contacted all the carriages in advance when you set out, so we always know where you are along the way. Shari, who was sitting in the carriage, was shocked because these carriages were arranged by herself. And most of them were hired by people who were particularly trustworthy around her. But what Shari did not expect was that among these relatives around her, there was actually an eyeliner of this person called Lord Kabuto. It seems that the identity of Lord Kabuto in Sound Village is indeed very different. Although Sound Village is not far from the city they were in before. However, being able to have so many spies around them at such a long distance, it can be seen that the strength of this Odogakur is extremely terrifying. Hitaki Kusuo, let's go with them. Shari in the car suddenly spoke. Hitaki Kusuo frowned when he heard this. He got on the car without saying a word. Under the leadership of many black carriages, they slowly drove towards the direction of Odogakur. The two people before Hitaki Kusuo were silent all the way, without saying a word. Gentlemen, we will arrive in about 10 minutes. The driver suddenly spoke. After she finished speaking, Hitaki Kusuo and Shari looked at each other, and their guess was not wrong. Even this driver was a spy found by Kabuto Yakushi. Hitaki Kusuo couldn't help but be interested in Kabuto Yakushi. At the beginning, Hitaki Kusuo didn't expect that Kabuto Yakushi actually had such strength. The carriage entered an intersection. A few hundred meters ahead of them, a very solemn building stood in front of them. It can be seen that the place should be the Sound Village. Suddenly, a carriage went in the opposite direction at the turn and turned towards the carriage they were in. A second later, the carriage ran straight into them. "Hitaki Kusuo, get off the car quickly," Shari shouted. "Don't worry, gentlemen." Before Hitaki Kusuo got off the car, the driver locked the door directly. "What do you mean?" Waves of chakra have been arranged in the palm of Hitaki Kusuo's hand, ready to attack these people at any time. "Just watch, gentlemen." After the other party said this, Hitaki Kusuo and Shari looked at each other, and looked at the silver carriage in front of them. Zero asked for flowers. Before the silver carriage could hit the car they were riding, the black carriages they had seen before directly surrounded it and sandwiched the silver carriage tightly in the middle. Several people holding ninja swords came down from the silver carriage. Just when they were about to fire hidden weapons at the car that Hitaki Kusuo was riding, the people in the black carriage rushed down. After a burst of fighting sounds, the people in the silver carriage, all the thugs who were locked up, have been dealt with. "I told you, you don't have to worry." After seeing that all the people in front of him were dealt with, the driver said with a smile. This time, Kusuo Hitaki became more hesitant in his heart. Their carriage had just arrived at the Sound Village, and they were killed by other people with guns. So it should be more than just Kabuto Yakushi who knew that they came to the Sound Village. Kusuo Hitaki and Natsuhi became more worried about this trip. Not long after, they arrived downstairs of the Sound Village. A middle-aged man in a suit greeted them very warmly. There is no doubt that this person is Kabuto Yakushi. Does Lord Kabuto want to talk to me about something? Actually, I don't have anything to do. I just want to talk to you. I heard that you encountered some troubles before. It's a conflict with the Yuzuki family. When Kabuto Yakushi said this, he deliberately raised his voice, as if he emphasized the word Yuzuki family. After hearing what Kabuto Yakushi said, Kusuo Hitaki was surprised. I hadn't thought that Kabuto Yakushi could find out all these things about me so easily. Chapter 388. But I don't know what Kabuto Yakushi wants me to come here for. When Kabuto Yakushi saw Kusuo Hitaki, his expression seemed very satisfied. You don't have to be so surprised. Because I have already asked someone to check your information. With my ability, if I want to find out the information about a person, I can basically get it all. Kabuto Yakushi said this with a smile on his face, but Kusuo Hitaki could feel that this smile was full of chill. Shari, who was standing aside, also understood in his heart when he heard this that Kabuto Yakushi was definitely not an ordinary person. Since you have already found me here today, if there is anything, just tell me. Kabuto Yakushi laughed after hearing this. You are indeed a young man with great spirit. In that case, I will say it directly. Now I have something that requires you to be an undercover agent. Hitaki Kusuo, Izumi Narumi, and Shari looked at each other after hearing this, not knowing how to answer. The three of them were not special people in their daily lives. It's just that Hitaki Kusuo is a ninja with relatively strong strength. But it is definitely not enough to make others go to such great lengths to ask Hitaki Kusuo to be an undercover agent. Did I hear it right? Are you planning to let me be an undercover agent? Hitaki Kusuo frowned and looked at Yakushi Kabuto in front of him. Yakushi Kabuto seemed to feel Hitaki Kusuo's rejection of the identity of an undercover agent. Don't worry, the undercover agent you are assigned to this time has already considered your strength, and I know how strong your ability is. If someone else said this, Kusuo Hitaki would definitely not want to believe it, but when it came from the mouth of Kabuto Yakushi, Kusuo Hitaki had to believe it. The conflict between Kusuo Hitaki's guards and the Yuzuki family was actually known to him. And now all their family members are missing, and this matter is inevitably related to Shari. Why don't we agree to him first? This person's strength doesn't seem to be that simple. The Shari member leaned towards Kusuo Hitaki and whispered in Kusuo Hitaki's ear. Suo Hitaki, however, showed a disgusted expression and rolled his eyes. It's easy for you to say, but it's not so easy to do. I don't have the foundation to be an undercover. What if this matter is related to Orochimaru's Anbu? Said Kabuto Yakushi, I have prepared all the information that can be found about Orochimaru's Anbu for you, just go and feel at ease. After saying that, Kabuto Yakushi put a set of materials in front of Kusuo Hatake, looking confident. Suo Hatake looked at the thick pile of materials, but did not reach out to take it. How can you be sure that I will definitely agree to you? Don't worry, I know you will definitely agree to me. After hearing what Kabuto Yakushi said, Kusuo Hatake suddenly fell silent, because he didn't expect Kabuto Yakushi to speak so bluntly. After I read the information in my hand later, I realized that it was a confidant of Kabuto Yakushi who was discovered by the people of Orochimaru's Anbu when he went to investigate the matter related to Orochimaru's Anbu. After that, Kabuto Yakushi's Chingshin was brutally killed by Orochimaru's Anbu people. Kabuto Yakushi and Orochimaru's Anbu people were originally at odds, and his confidant was brutally killed by the other party. It was simply adding insult to injury. It was not easy for him to sneak into Orochimaru's Anbu at that time. After years of lurking, he had gained a certain reputation in Orochimaru's Anbu. But he didn't expect to be exposed in the end. But what was unexpected was that when Kusuo Hatake finished reading these materials, he immediately shook his head. No, you can't protect me with your own relatives. If you go, you will die here, right? Kabuto Yakushi, seeing that Kusuo Hatake was not going to accept it, offered some money to tempt him. If you promise me if you can make a request, you can stay in our Otogakur village. You will also have a place here. After hearing this, Kusuo Hatake hesitated for a while, because such a request was more or less tempting. Kusuo Hatake's guard team has just started, and it is the time when money is needed. If there is so much money to help at this time, it can really save a lot of trouble. But Kusuo Hatake also understands that it is not so easy to fulfill the words of people like Kabuto Yakushi. Kusuo Hatake finally found an excuse to say that he was going to go back and think about it carefully, and then he left this place with the people in front of him. After Kusuo Hatake and others left here, Shari finally spoke. How do you plan to deal with this matter? Are you going to accept their request? But after saying this, Kusuo Hatake could only shake his head helplessly. Chapter 389. In fact, Kusuo Hatake didn't want to take such a risk, but now he knows that if he doesn't take this risk, it will be very difficult for them to walk back to their own place. But since this matter has been agreed, let's go and take a look. Actually, Kusuo Hatake still has some ulterior motives for Orochimaru's Anbu. Kusuo Hatake still remembers the angry look on Narumi Izumi's face. The woman in red said that she wanted to take Narumi Izumi away. That means the woman must know what happened to Narumi Izumi. But the woman in red was very stubborn and didn't want to tell Kusuo Hatake a word. And the woman's power is also very difficult to deal with. Now, Kusuo Hatake has such a good opportunity. He can just go find the woman and ask what happened to Narumi Izumi. By the way, Kusuo Hatake, why did you agree to him today? Was it because the conditions he offered were very tempting? After Xie said this, Kusuo Hatake didn't know how to explain it for a moment, because the conditions offered by Kabuto Yakushi were indeed very tempting, but Kusuo Hatake agreed not only because of these relationships. I will contact Kabuto Yakushi tomorrow, and then we will let their people take us to the location of Orochimaru's Anbu. After saying this, Kusuo Hatake looked out of the car window and fell into deep thought. Because in that document, Kusuo Hatake has clearly seen that Kabuto Yakushi has already prepared false identities for them in Orochimaru's Anbu. At the same time, Kusuo Hatake was constantly sighing in his heart, Kabuto Yakushi, this man is really all-powerful. Orochimaru's Anbu, these people are extremely private in society. There has never been a rumor that they appear here, but what is unexpected is that they can actually handle such an organization. In fact, Shari didn't know why Kusuo Hatake was like this, and insisted on agreeing to Kabuto Yakushi's request. What happened to the woman in red before was actually very confusing in his heart, but Shari never thought of looking for trouble with Orochimaru's Anbu. The strength of these people in Orochimaru's Anbu has never been easily revealed in this world for so many years. So, Shari's biggest worry was that they would encounter some unimaginable dangers this time. It was not until about a week later that they received the identities arranged by Kabuto Yakushi. According to what Kabuto Yakushi taught them at the end, Kusuo Hitaki and the other two came to a restaurant. From the outside, this restaurant looked like an ordinary restaurant. If it were any other time, it would be hard to imagine that this restaurant was actually the hiding place of Orochimaru's Anbu and others. As soon as I entered the restaurant, there was not much difference between it and other places. The only difference was that the taste of their cooking might not be very similar to the restaurant they had been to before. When Kusuo Hitaki and the other two came to the restaurant, suddenly, a woman came forward to greet them. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. I'm relieved to see the three of you." Sure enough, the people they introduced were different. They looked like outstanding people. After I heard what the woman said, I was shocked. I didn't expect that the identities they created would be like this, but I don't know what kind of job Kabuto Yakushi introduced to them. So that's the case. We have admired Orochimaru's Anbu for a long time, so we came here after a lot of introductions. After saying this, Kusuo Hitaki bowed to the woman in front of him. After all, they came here to perform their undercover missions, so if they were going to do it, they might as well do it in full. The woman seemed to be very satisfied with Kusuo Hitaki's attitude. She didn't say much. She just invited Kusuo Hitaki and others to sit down. "I don't know what to call you, girl. Just call me Toyomi." Kusuo Hitaki had already obtained the information. Toyomi was the leader here who made decisions. So Kusuo Hitaki decided that he must first take over Toyomi, so that he could live a worry-free life here. After all, they came here to find out about Izumi Narumi. Although Izumi Narumi is here, Kusuo Hitaki cannot tell her about the time when she was directly controlled by the curse seal. From Izumi Narumi's reaction that time, it can be seen that Izumi Narumi has no memory of the period when she was controlled by the curse seal. So Kusuo Hitaki must protect her well. From now on, we are also a family. In fact, there is nothing else here. Chapter 390. Kusuo Hitaki and others came here, and after staying for about a day, they went back to their previous place. And the place where Kusuo Hitaki and others live now is the place that Kabuto Yakushi found for them. Kusuo Hitaki and others live in this place and are considered to be stable. There have been no other problems for such a long time. However, after Kusuo Hitaki successfully lurked in the crowd of people in the Anbu of Orochimaru, he soon found out some information for Kabuto Yakushi. It turns out that the problem with the confidant next to Kabuto Yakushi was not as simple as imagined. After all, that guy had been lurking in Orochimaru's Anbu for a long time, and it was impossible for him to be discovered normally. It turned out that the man was finally exposed because they had another spy here. In other words, there was actually a traitor next to Kabuto Yakushi. What do you mean by this? Everyone around me is my own relative. How could there be any problem with them? After hearing this news, he looked unbelievable. What do you mean by this? Do you mean that the news I have been gathering for you for so long is all false news? After hearing what Kabuto Yakushi said, Kusuo Hitaki also showed a hint of displeasure. I really didn't expect this guy to speak like this at this time. If you are telling the truth, I will make him regret being an undercover agent next to me in this life. Hitaki Kusuo could feel the murderous aura of everyone from the tone of Kabuto Yakushi. After saying this, I suddenly turned to look at Kabuto Hitaki next to me. Then I have another thing to trouble you. You have to help me find out who is constantly probing around me. This is about the undercover information. Because Kabuto Yakushi understands his current identity, after all, he is still the captain. If Kabuto Yakushi is not the captain now, Kabuto Yakushi's strength is simply not enough to eliminate the traitors left by Orochimaru's Anbu from his side in a short time. In fact, Kabuto Yakushi doesn't understand why people like Orochimaru's Anbu keep traitors next to him. But people from Orochimaru's Anbu. Normally, they don't care about worldly affairs. It's just that a long time ago, there were some very secret transactions between Orochimaru's Anbu and Odogakur. What people didn't expect was that after the cooperation between the two groups ended, they quickly became hostile forces. Hitaki Kusuo nodded and left directly. Just after Hitaki Kusuo left, Kabuto Yakushi immediately called someone to his side. Now there may be some traitors around us. Go and find out who is walking around me and what information about me. He nodded and left Kabuto Yakushi's room directly. An investigation began from then on. Now he is determined to get rid of this traitor from his side. Because Kabuto Yakushi found Hitaki Kusuo and others to this place, it is naturally not just to let Hitaki Kusuo find out about the inside of Orochimaru's Anbu. The impact of this matter is really too bad. I will never let such a thing happen to me. When everyone is gone, your heart. Kabuto Yakushi was so angry that he threw a water cup in front of him to the ground. It can be seen that Kabuto Yakushi still hates such a thing. And Kabuto Yakushi already had a plan in his mind. This time, with the help of Kusuo Hitaki, Kabuto Yakushi planned to completely eliminate all the hostile forces around him. Kabuto Yakushi had already found out the news about Kusuo Hitaki, and naturally understood the extent of Kusuo Hitaki's strength. It is beneficial for Kabuto Yakushi to use such a person. Therefore, Kabuto Yakushi can deal with a small Uzuki family. Anyway, it is better to sell Kusuo Hitaki a favor, and Kusuo Hitaki will solve such dangerous things for him. Suo Hitaki also roughly understood in his heart that no matter how he calculated this matter, it was not worth it. However, Kusuo Hitaki also had his own plan in mind, because Kusuo Hitaki wanted to find out what happened to Narumi Izumi. What happened to Izumi Narumi before was really too weird. Hitaki Kusuo really wanted to find out what was going on with Izumi Narumi. Especially the mysterious red color that appeared around Izumi Narumi, which was a color that had never appeared before. As for that color of chakra, Hitaki Kusuo had never seen it before, and had never even heard of it. The woman in red clothes said that she wanted to capture Izumi Narumi, so Kusuo Hitaki knew that the woman in red must know about the red chakra. If you want to find the woman in red, you must go to Orochimaru's Anbu. Chapter 391. Although the woman had successfully escaped from Kusuo Hitaki was not worried that the woman would expose her identity. What the woman said that day was that the woman must have gone to the place where they were before to carry out a mission. The woman did not succeed in carrying out the mission, so she went back directly. According to the regulations of the side station, the woman must have been severely punished. So, Kusuo Hitaki was very sure that the woman would not admit this. After my mother wandered around alone for a long time, she did not return to the place where Orochimaru's Anbu was until the next day. Where did you go yesterday? As soon as Kusuo Hitaki came back, Shari immediately walked up to Kusuo Hitaki and questioned him. My mother simply answered the questions about the search for Kabuto Yakushi yesterday, but Kusuo Hitaki didn't know why Shari had such an attitude today. What happened during my absence? Kusuo Hitaki asked with a vigilant look. Because Kusuo Hitaki could clearly feel from the other party's attitude that something unspeakable must have happened when he was away today. Many people came to us during your absence, and everyone was asking about something. Shari said, I have a hunch that our identities may have been exposed. Kusuo Hitaki did walk directly to Shari and patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry, you think too much about this matter. Although Kusuo Hitaki encouraged Shari like this, Shari still didn't dare to believe it. Until Shari looked at Huang Guan's encouraging eyes, she finally felt relieved. But what Shari didn't expect was that in this action, they were indeed not exposed, but they set off a very terrible storm. Before long, a large group of people came to the door of their house with weapons in hand. After hearing the knock on the door, Kusuo Hitaki went to open the door directly, but looking at the weapons in the hands of the group of people in front of him, Kusuo Hitaki could not help but frown. What are you doing here? As you can see, it is exactly the same as you imagined. Kusuo Hitaki was shocked. He did not expect that their identities would be exposed in such a short time. But the exposure of their identities was a big blow to them. We too have just joined here. What do you mean by coming to us now? After Kusuo Hitaki said this, one of the leaders immediately shook the huge kitchen knife in his hand. You should have seen what we mean by coming here. Shari, who was standing aside, heard the leader speak like this and could not help but feel a little apprehensive. Shari had heard that the people in Orochimaru's Anbu were very arrogant, but she didn't expect them to be so arrogant as they are now. This made Shari not mentally prepared. Hitaki Kusuo was not very anxious when he saw this scene, but Shari was indeed a little anxious. As the saying goes, if a gangster knows martial arts, no one can stop him. Although the chakras of Hitaki Kusuo and Shari are both relatively strong, who knows where so many people will fight. Soon, the whole room entered a state of chaos. Hitaki Kusuo and Shari, the men of both of them have always been lenient, and did not attack their weak points at all. Because the two of them also suspected that this was the people sent by Orochimaru's Anbu to test them. Oh no, Lord Hitaki Kusuo. There are too many of them. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo was also busy and in a dilemma in the chaos. The opponent's attack hit the vital point every time. If it weren't for Kusuo Hitaki, if both of them wanted to act in time, they might have died by now. If they continue to attack like this, I will use my real strength. When Shari heard Kusuo Hitaki say this, he was shocked. Because Shari didn't expect Kusuo Hitaki to be unable to bear it in such a short time. In fact, Kusuo Hitaki had tried his best, because both of them were more or less injured. Kusuo Hitaki's face suddenly darkened, and he continued to condense the chakra in his hand. He waved his hand forward, and the people holding kitchen knives in front of him suddenly took several steps back. Kusuo Hitaki, be careful, don't kill me. Shari's reminder came from the side. Chakra release. The rough man holding a kitchen knife roared, and suddenly the whole body was covered with light blue chakra. When Hitaki Kusuo and the other man saw the colored chakra, their eyes were full of surprise. They had only seen colored chakra on Izumi Narumi. Chapter 392. However, although Izumi Narumi had that kind of colored chakra, it also gave Izumi Chengmei brought a lot of trouble. Hitaki Kusuo, what's going on? When Shari saw the colored chakra, he became nervous. They really didn't expect that the people in Orochimaru's Anbu were all such weird characters. Ah! The big man with blue chakra roared and rushed towards Hitaki Kusuo's body. At this time, only Hitaki Kusuo had ordinary chakra burning on his body. Hitaki Kusuo, you must be more careful, these people's identities are definitely not simple. Shari kept reminding. But Hitaki Kusuo knew that it was useless to say these words now. At this time, he must fight them. With a loud bang. Hitaki Kusuo's figure suddenly retreated several steps back. Looking at the big man just now, he only retreated 2 steps. This guy is so strong. Hitaki Kusuo sighed in his heart. It seems that they did underestimate the strength of Orochimaru's Anbu before they came. However, even so, what Hitaki Kusuo and the others are most worried about at this time is the safety of Izumi Narumi. Izumi Narumi is not by their side at the moment, but what Hitaki Kusuo is most worried about when they are fighting with these people is that Izumi Narumi will come to them without knowing it. Red chakra had appeared on the mountain of Izumi Narumi before, but at that time, Orochimaru's Anbu sent people to capture Izumi Narumi. Hitaki Kusuo is worried that if Izumi Narumi sees this scene, the red chakra in her body may go out of control again. Hitaki Kusuo doesn't want Izumi Narumi to be trapped in this place. What should we do with these people now? Shari is resisting the attacks of these people with left and right punches. Hitaki Kusuo doesn't know what to do for a moment, and now the whole room is in chaos. Unexpectedly, although this group of people is very powerful, they are very tacit before they attack. From this, it can be seen that they should not have cooperated with each other before. Especially the big man with blue chakra who just led the way. After fighting with Professor Kusuo Hitaki, this big man no longer used his hands. Instead, he just stood at the back with a knife. After a battle, Kusuo Hitaki seemed to have found a pattern in his mind. Every time this group of people attacked, the big man behind must be standing. When Kusuo Hitaki fought with this big man just now, the group of people in front of him did not move. From this, it can be inferred that only one person can move between these people and the big man. You besiege these people now, and leave the big man with blue chakra behind to me. Kusuo Hatake came to Shari's side during the battle and whispered. Although Shari didn't know what Kusuo Hatake was thinking, she nodded slightly. Then you must be careful when you go. Hatake Kusuo also nodded gently as a response. The two entered their respective areas to fight. According to the division of labor between the two before, Hatake Kusuo now attacked the big man with blue chakra alone, and the rest of the people were always handed over to Shari. When Hatake Kusuo rushed towards the big man immediately raised the kitchen knife in his hand, swung the big knife and chopped it fiercely, and the blade danced from top to bottom with great vigor. Seeing that this knife was about to hit him, Hatake Kusuo quickly dodged sideways. But at the same time, Shari won a staged victory. The fact is exactly what Hatake Kusuo thought. When the blue chakra big man attacked, the other big men's attacking movements suddenly stopped. You should be careful. Only one of these people can move. The others are all under his control. After seeing this, Kusuo Hatake immediately shouted at Shari. However, Kusuo Hatake's attention was distracted when he said this. The blue chakra, the big man punched Kusuo Hatake in the chest. A very strange chakra rushed into Kusuo Hatake's body. The light blue chakra seemed to carry a burst of cold breath, and Kusuo Hatake's whole body was immediately frozen with goosebumps. Kusuo Hatake, are you okay? Seeing this, Shari quickly broke through the siege and came to Kusuo Hatake's side. When the big men behind him saw Kusuo Hatake and Shari, the two gathered together again and quickly blocked Shari and the others. After a long time, Kusuo Hatake stood up. When he opened his eyes, Shari was standing with the group of people. And Shari gradually lost the upper hand. It was not because Shari was not strong enough, but because the abilities of these people were too strange. These big men with weapons immediately regained the upper hand. Chapter 393. Shari, you have to be careful. There is only one person controlling these people. That's the one with blue chakra just now. After hearing the voice, Shari looked back and saw that Kusuo Hatake had already woken up. At the beginning, Shari had heard what Kusuo Hatake said, so Shari had always only was doing his best to protect Kusuo Hatake. Kusuo Hatake fell into a coma. Even Shari, who knew that the man with blue chakra was the leader, had no ability to rush to that man. Hurry up and help me. I am no match for them alone. 920. Kusuo Hatake immediately stood up and resumed the melee with Shari and the others. But what puzzled Kusuo Hatake was that he had been unconscious for a long time just now. But I don't know why these people didn't kill him. Although there were many scars on the two of them, none of them was fatal. Kusuo Hatake's eyes suddenly turned red and shrank a lot. It seems that there is something wrong with this matter. Kusuo Hatake muttered in a low voice, but Shari on the side didn't buy it. What's there to stand for in this matter? Now my life is about to die, and you still tell me that there is something wrong. For a moment, Kusuo Hatake was choked and didn't know what to say. Indeed, during the time when Kusuo Hatake was unconscious, Shari suffered a lot. Kusuo Hatake looked at the big man with blue chakra beside him. Kusuo Hatake dodged and immediately rushed behind the big man and punched him in the chest. Because Kusuo Hatake had just used it at a very fast speed, the big man with blue chakra had no time to react. He was immediately knocked to the ground by Kusuo Hatake. But when he fell to the ground, the other burly men holding weapons in the room stopped their attacks at the same time. A group of people stood in the room like puppets. Shari was surprised when she saw the scene in front of her. Because Kusuo Hatake never thought that someone could actually practice such a spell. Just when everyone was embarrassed, the door of their room was suddenly opened by another woman. Not bad, not bad. I just tried your strength. I didn't expect your abilities to be so close. The voice of the woman who entered the room today. Kusuo Hatake looked up and saw that it was the woman who greeted them downstairs that day. Kusuo Hatake felt that this person's identity must be extraordinary, although the information said that this person was a leader of Orochimaru's Anbu here. But Kusuo Hatake imagined that his identity was definitely not as ordinary as described in the information. Facts have proved that Kusuo Hataki's idea is correct. Since you have passed my test, then you can go with me. Someone wants to see you. Kusuo Hataki and Shari, after hearing this, their eyes suddenly became more alert. The two of them came here, and their main mission was to be undercover. However, under such circumstances, someone actually asked to see them, which means that the other party may have known that their roles were not simple. At this time, Narumi Izumi was walking outside alone, not with the two of them. It is also possible that Izumi Narumi has been kidnapped by the other party. This strong sense of insecurity immediately filled the hearts of the two of them. However, Kusuo Hataki and Shari did not say much, but just looked at each other and nodded. The woman saw that Kusuo Hataki agreed so readily, and turned around and left the house directly. But after walking a few steps, she found that Kusuo Hataki and the other party did not catch up. The woman frowned and turned back to the house. Since you two have already agreed to me, why don't you leave now? You haven't introduced to us who we are going to meet, and you don't even want to reveal the other party's identity. Why should we follow you like this? Shari answered straightforwardly, without any intention of hiding anything. This place is their first time here, and it is where Orochimaru's Anbu people are. Shari knew very well that if the other party wanted to do something to him, he and Kusuo Hataki would definitely not be able to escape from now on. A satisfied smile appeared on the corner of Kusuo Hataki's mouth. It seemed that what Shari said was exactly what Kusuo Hataki was thinking. After knowing each other for such a long time, the two of them now cooperated very well. Shari only needed a look from Kusuo Hataki to understand what he was thinking. But after hearing this, the woman frowned. I only said that I would take you two away. I didn't say that I could reveal to you now the identity of the person who wanted to see you. When he heard the woman speak like this, Kusuo Hataki's heart suddenly became more restless. Chapter 394. It seems that you are really good at putting on airs. We too have just joined your Orochimaru Anbu, and you are going to treat us like this now. It seems that the people in your Orochimaru Anbu are just some hypocritical organizations with a good reputation, right? After the woman coaxed me with these words every day, she frowned, obviously very dissatisfied with Kusuo Hataki's bad words about Orochimaru Anbu. Kusuo Hataki saw the woman's disgusted expression, and suddenly felt a lot of joy in his heart. What he didn't expect was that the woman fell into his trap so easily. Kusuo Hataki just wanted to find out the secret in the woman's heart. If the woman didn't tell him who wanted to see them, the two Hataki Kusuo would definitely not follow. After all, Orochimaru's Anbu was unfamiliar with this place, and they might encounter any danger with just the two of them. To know the identity of the other party, you just need to know that they want to find you two for something. 06 But what Hataki Kusuo didn't expect was that using this method, he still couldn't get any information out of the woman's mouth. At this time, Shari gently touched Hataki Kusuo, with a provocative look in his eyes. Huowo waved his hand to indicate that Shari was not the time to force it. If Shari forced to take action here, the two of them might die here. After all, the strength of the people in Orochimaru's Anbu was extremely strange, and even the trick they just saw was never heard of. In this situation where the enemy's situation was unknown, Hataki Kusuo knew that the best choice was not to take action. If he took action easily at this time, who knows what the consequences would be. If we don't do it, maybe this woman will do something bad to us. Shari whispered in Kusuo Hataki's ear. Don't worry, I'm definitely not harming you, and the identity of the person who is looking for you is also very mysterious, so I can't tell you. After the woman finished speaking, Kusuo Hataki and Shari were shocked. Shari's voice was very low just now, and was covered by Kusuo Hataki's chakra. If it were someone else, they would definitely not be able to hear any sound. I didn't expect that this woman, who seemed mediocre, actually had such ability. Is there anything else to discuss now? The woman's voice sounded very gentle, but that feeling made the two of them feel extremely scared. The identity of this woman was as unfathomable as a huge abyss. They didn't have enough confidence to fight Kusuo Hataki with such an opponent. Since someone wants to see me, then take me there. After saying this, Kusuo Hataki waved to Shari, and the two immediately followed him out. After letting them out, a car happened to be parked outside. Gentlemen, please get in the car. The woman opened the car door and bowed respectfully to Kusuo Hatake and Shari. Kusuo Hatake was not polite this time and sat directly in the back seat. Shari saw that Kusuo Hatake was so generous, and sighed and got in the car. But when the two of them just sat in the back seat, two burly men came up on the left and right. At the same time, two sacks were directly put on their heads. Kusuo Hatake was about to use his collective chakra to resist, but suddenly he felt a very cold object on his waist. It was a gun. Shari, who was standing by, also felt the same treatment, and the two were so surprised that they didn't know what to do. What do you mean? Kusuo Hatake said coldly. The familiar female voice came from the front row. After all, the place we are going to today is far away, and we cannot be guided by our way for the time being, so I'll trouble you on the way. Kusuo Hatake was extremely confused. He really didn't know what kind of character the other party was, and he could actually have such means. The car drove very smoothly all the way. They didn't encounter attacks like they did when they went to Audiobook before. Instead, it was very peaceful along the way. But no one spoke along the way. Until he felt the force of a heavy brake at the end, Kusuo Hatake realized that they had arrived. Although the car had arrived, the sacks on any of their heads had not been taken off. Now we have arrived. Do you two have any questions for me? If you have any, just tell me now. The familiar voice of the woman came from the front row again. What do you mean by saying this to us? Now that we are here, why do you need to tell us again? Hatake Kusuo raised a helpless smile at the corner of his mouth. With Hatake Kusuo's strength, there is no way to fight this woman now. After all, as long as Hatake Kusuo's chakra moves a little, the gun on his waist will be shot down directly. Hatake Kusuo still does not have enough confidence to fight a stranger. After arriving here, Hatake Kusuo was even more surprised at the power of Orochimaru's Anbu. Chapter 395. It seems that it is no wonder that Orochimaru's Anbu has such a strong power. And Izumi Narumi is extremely powerful. When Izumi Narumi met the woman in red clothes, she was defeated. It can be seen from something that Orochimaru's Anbu is a place where crouching tigers and hidden dragons are hidden. However, Hatake Kusuo has had little contact with the people in Orochimaru's Anbu for so many years, and I don't know what the identity of the people in Orochimaru's Anbu is. After all, the gentleman who wants to see you today doesn't want you to ask too many nonsense questions, so if you have any questions, just ask me and I will answer them. The gentleman only wants to talk to you about an important matter, and he will send you away after the talk. Hatake Kusuo suddenly understood that the man was worried that there would be some conflicts between them, so he solved the matter in advance. There are actually with such an arrogant person, Kusuo Hatake could not help but be curious about his identity. At least you should tell me where this place is. I'm sorry, we have been taped and we can't tell you about this matter, and you will still be covered when you come back later. After hearing this, Kusuo Hatake felt relieved. Because Kusuo Hatake was thinking about countermeasures when he went to the city, Hongguang didn't try too hard to remember the driving method of this road. But if he still took this road when he went back, Kusuo Hatake could remember this road by his own ability. When he thought of this, Kusuo Hatake immediately raised a satisfied smile on his face, but at this moment, the face of Dusk was under the sack, and the woman couldn't see it. What is the matter with you coming to see us? At least you can tell us. I'm sorry, I don't know about this. If there is anything important, the gentleman will naturally tell you and won't tell me in advance. After hearing this, Kusuo Hatake felt speechless. He asked a few questions in total, but none of them could be answered. In that case, do you have anything else to tell me? The woman raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect Kusuo Hatake to start asking her. Since you are not ashamed to ask, I will tell you reluctantly. The woman's voice sounded very playful, as if she was flirting with Kusuo Hatake. The scenery in this place is very beautiful. I hope you two will be careful after getting off the car. As for more things, the guards in this house will naturally tell you. But the premise is that you will violate their bottom line. After the woman finished speaking, the sacks on their heads were pulled off at the same time. This time, Kusuo Hatake looked up and saw that the woman was dressed very beautifully today. Looking out the window again. A huge villa surrounded by mountains. Kusuo Hatake wanted to use the surroundings to determine their location. But looking back, the long mountain road was more than 10 kilometers long. Kusuo Hatake began to sigh. Why there is a carriage with such good shock absorption in the world, but it can't even recognize the surrounding scenery. The black-clothed man next to the two of them had already got off the car and opened the door. Kusuo Hatake sighed helplessly and got off the car directly. Only then did he see that the yard was full of countless people in black clothes. Kusuo Hatake closed his eyes and radiated his spiritual consciousness to the surroundings. But in just 1 second, Kusuo Hatake took back all the chakra in his body. Because he had discovered that all the people standing in the yard were ninjas. What on earth is this place? Hatake Kusuo's pupils shrank, and he was surprised to find that the strength of the ninjas around him was comparable to his own. With so many powerful ninjas, I really don't know what kind of person can gather them here. Shari, you must be careful, this place doesn't look simple. After Hatake Kusuo's words today, Shari also nodded. In fact, Shari found that the yard was different after getting off the car. Not only is the chakra very strong, but the chakra on these people is very strange, which is different from the common chakra. Come into the house, gentlemen. A man who was more than 1.8 meters tall walked up to the two of them and invited them. Hatake Kusuo walked directly there. As soon as they entered the house, they found a group of people holding weapons, and the muzzles of the guns were all pointed at the two of them. Hatake Kusuo frowned. What do you mean? You brought us here just to kill us. Sir, you misunderstood. This is a place that no outsider has ever been to. So this is your first time here, and we may be too nervous. Chapter 396. After one of the leading men said this, he signaled the other guarding ninjas to put down their weapons. In fact, when the muzzles of the guns were pointed at Kusuo Hatake's body, the chakra in Kusuo Hatake's body had already started to work. It was just because of nervousness that Kusuo Hatake didn't notice it just now. But when the atmosphere was no longer as tense as before, Kusuo Hatake noticed that the people holding guns in the room were all ninjas. Even the strength of the man who just spoke could not be detected by Kusuo Hatake alone. From this, it can be seen that the guards of this room are extremely powerful. If the two of them wanted to force their way in, they would not be able to get into the room at all, just with the people outside the room or the people inside the room. When Kusuo Hatake discovered this sign, he became even more curious about what kind of person was looking for him. Since the other party already had such a person, if Kusuo Hatake and the other party wanted to be killed by him now, it would probably be a matter of him moving his fingers. However, since the two of them came here, they have not suffered any substantial harm. In this case, the other party should not have wanted Toit means to kill. However, usually, Kusuo Hatake and Natsuhi don't have much hatred with anyone. Logically speaking, they shouldn't encounter such an opponent. Can we go in now? Our tone was not ideal, and it was because of the treatment Kusuo Hatake encountered when he entered the house that made Kusuo Hatake very angry. It's okay now, you two gentlemen can go in. The person who spoke was still the black-clothed man Kusuo Hatake just now. It is guessed that this man must have a high status in this place. Hong Aran walked into the house alone, but at the door of a house, Kusuo Hatake suddenly stopped. You should also know that the strength of the two of us is that of ninjas. Are you assured that the two of us will not attack the person you want to protect if we go in like this? When Kusuo Hatake said this, he deliberately spoke with an extremely sarcastic tone. But the black man's answer surprised Kusuo Hatake and Natsuhi. You two gentlemen can rest assured. We have very strong protection in this house. If you two gentlemen have any ill intentions, we will rush into the house from outside at the first time and kill you too. After hearing this, Shari snorted coldly. Really? Why didn't I see that you were so arrogant when you spoke? After saying this, Shari immediately took 2 steps forward and wanted to punch the man in the face. Fortunately, Kusuo Hatake pulled Shari back in time. Shari, don't do it. Shari glanced at Kusuo Hatake and glanced at the leading man. At this time, the man had a smiling face and looked at the two of them. Shari then shook off Kusuo Hatake's hand angrily. If I didn't give you face, I would definitely beat his man today. The man didn't say much, and his face was still smiling. Why did you hold him back just now? Didn't you see that the man was no match for us? After Shari said this, Kusuo Hatake gently patted Shari's shoulder. You really underestimated that man. Is the chakra in the whole room condensed? After Kusuo Hatake said this, Shari was stunned. Shari didn't notice this detail just now. But after Kusuo Hatake said it, Shari simply recalled and found that what Kusuo Hatake said was true. Shari looked back at the man just now again. But this time his eyes were full of shock. Looking at the man in black again, he didn't have any expression, still. Standing there motionless, with a fake smile on his lips. Let's go, come in with me. After Kusuo Hatake said this, he directly pulled Shari into the room. When the two of them just walked to the door, the heavy door opened immediately. After entering, the heavy door closed again. Shari looked at the heavy door, and kept thinking in his heart, how did those people outside the house detect their spiritual tools into the house? After entering the house, the two found a very comfortable sofa in the house. There were also desserts that had just been prepared on the coffee table. There was no one else in the house except the elderly man. Are you looking for us too? Shari was very impolite when he said this, obviously because of the attitude of those men just now, which made Shari very angry. The old man just smiled slightly and motioned to Hatake Kusuo to sit down quickly. Why are you looking for us too for no reason? Chapter 397. Hatake Kusuo still knew what he was going to do now. In fact, Hatake Kusuo had thought about Natsumi's problem for a long time. If he participated in the ninja competition, Natsumi's strength was still far from enough, all because of Orochimaru. But now Kusuo Hatake has no idea where Orochimaru is. These people who got the curse seal of Orochimaru are really abominable. It seems that he will have a hard time in this Chunin exam. However, since such a thing happened under his nose, Kusuo Hatake will not let Orochimaru go. But what can he do if he doesn't let him go? Although he is almost invincible in this world now, if he can't find the Great Snake King, there is no way at all. He looked at Natsumi and said slowly, if you really want to take part in the Chunin exam this time, then go ahead. I will help you solve some problems. You don't need to worry about your lack of strength. Although you don't want to use the power of the curse seal, it is obviously unfair to you if others use it. Since they are not fair, then we can also be unfair. Natsumi said unexpectedly, Master Hatake, didn't you ask me not to use the power of the curse seal? I have already decided not to use the power that does not belong to me. But my strength is too small, there is nothing I can do about it. Hatake Kusuo patted Natsumi's shoulder and said, what's the matter? I didn't ask you to use the power of the curse seal, although the curse seal can increase strength. But for the human body it has extremely serious side effects. Then I'll give you this. Then Kusuo Hatake summoned the Samsara Eye, and then looked at Natsumi and said, today, I will let you see the most powerful force in the world. Kusuo Hatake had a Samsara Eye on his head, and this scene scared everyone around. Tsunami said tremblingly, Master Kusuo Hatake, what are you doing? Is this a Samsara Eye? How can there be so many? Master, are you going to do something? But this is too incredible. It has long been known that Kusuo Hatake is very powerful. Ordinary people simply cannot see through Kusuo Hatake. However, no matter how powerful he is, it is impossible for him to directly summon 10 Samsara Eyes. Which one is the legendary Samsara Eye? It is very powerful for ordinary people to have one. No, it is definitely very powerful, but Kusuo Hatake actually has 10. This has exceeded Suna's understanding of power. Everyone was surprised, but Kusuo Hatake did not show much expression. He actually didn't want other people to know about his ability. But because of Natsumi, he had to use the Samsara Eye to help Natsumi. That is to transplant Hashirama's cells into Natsumi. This is the easiest way for him to improve Natsumi's strength in a short time. Although from now on, his name will spread throughout the ninja world, it is because he wants to build a ninja village. This may not be a bad thing for him, letting people in the ninja world know how powerful he is. For his own consideration, he must perform this technique today. 0 Please give me flowers. Hitaki Kusuo actually doesn't have that many samsara eyes, but he has the ability to copy everything. Copying a samsara eye is already the limit. But he forgot that this power has already surpassed the origin of the world, and if it goes on, the world will collapse. But now he can't care about so much. It's just the power of 10 samsara eyes, and it's impossible to make the world collapse. Then he said, Natsumi, open your eyes and look at me. Just when Hitaki Kusuo was about to exert his strength, the cold voice of the system surrounded him. Your power has already surpassed this world and has been rejected by the origin of the world. The system has activated its protection ability, and the transfer is activated. Start the transfer to the next world. Hitaki Kusuo didn't react at all. He felt his eyes go dark and he entered a strange state. He was confused. What was going on? His power had reached the top of the world. What about Natsumi and Suna? That's not right. He still had a lot of things to deal with. How could he go to the next world? But he couldn't do anything now. He didn't know how long it had been. Hitaki Kusuo had given up struggling. There was nothing he could do about it. Although he had left the Naruto world, he had already solved some things. He didn't know what would happen in the Naruto world. He could only pray that they could live well. It was at this time that Hitaki Kusuo felt a wave of dizziness coming over his head. Chapter 398. Where is this? Hitaki Kusuo slowly stood up from the ground, his pupils shrank slightly. Hitaki Kusuo's previous impression was that the special ability just activated by the system allowed him to leave the Naruto world first. It was going to teleport him to another two-dimensional world, and ordered Hitaki Kusuo to become the strongest in that world within 3 years. Damn system, it sent me here without telling me which world I was traveling to. Hitaki Kusuo snorted coldly, then looked around. This is a wasteland, silent, and there is no trace of human life. Then Hitaki Kusuo felt the chakra in Ju-Er-san's body, and he could also use the ninjutsu he learned in the Naruto world. The situation is still relatively ideal. He can use most of the ninjutsu in the Naruto world, but the chakra is partially restricted. It may be that he has just entered this world and needs some time to run in. Hitaki Kusuo first flew in the air, relying on his feeling, and went straight forward. He had a hunch, but there was a relatively strong chakra in front. After flying for about half an hour, the wasteland disappeared and an oasis appeared. A tall figure was standing on the rock in front. Who is it? The monster also felt the existence of Hitaki Kusuo, and he also flew over and strode in front of Hitaki Kusuo. Oh my god, it's you. Hitaki Kusuo looked at this person and his face changed drastically. Green skin, lizard-like head, and cold expression. This is the great demon King Piccolo from the Dragon Ball world. Did he travel to the Dragon Ball world? Who is this person? He looks ordinary and weak, but the energy in his body is indescribably abundant. Piccolo looked at Hitaki Kusuo and his face was horrified. This person has a terrifying aura that he only sees in Son Goku. I have been there. Take it. Hitaki Kusuo paused, and suddenly threw out 2 or 3 shurikens. This shuriken could not hurt Piccolo at all, so he quickly dodged it. The shuriken was nailed to the ground. Do you want to die? Piccolo was furious and was about to catch him. But Hitaki Kusuo suddenly disappeared from the spot, and then he appeared behind Piccolo. Rasengan. Hitaki Kusuo took a Rasengan and hit Piccolo's back. The principle of Rasengan is actually very simple. Hitaki Kusuo can master it as long as he learns a little. Piccolo was horrified. He had never seen such a tactic before. The man's speed was even faster than his. He dodged immediately, but the Rasengan still hit his left hand. Piccolo was quick-witted and let his left hand fall off. He snorted and grew his left hand again. It's Piccolo, this kind of ability can only be possessed by people from Namek. Hitaki Kusuo nodded. Then, based on the battle with Piccolo, he could roughly judge what era he was in. Piccolo looked more aloof and mature, not like when he just debuted. But his fighting ability was not very strong either, and he was at a disadvantage when facing himself from the middle martial arts world. Did you fight Son Goku in the martial arts tournament 3 years ago and lose to him? Hitaki Kusuo asked directly. Pico was mentioned about his sad things, and his eyes stared at Hitaki Kusuo. How do you know? I lost to Son Goku 3 years ago. I have been training hard for the past 3 years, just to defeat him one day 0. Hitaki Kusuo now had an idea. It was indeed this era, when brother Son Goku was about to come to Earth. In that case, the most valuable thing in this era is probably the body of a Super Saiyan. Hitaki Kusuo thought about the plot of Dragon Ball he had watched before and came to this conclusion. Except for the Saiyan race, all other races, including Piccolo from Namek, are garbage. Who are you? Aren't you from Earth? Piccolo stared at Kusuo Hitaki. Suo Hitaki gave him a feeling of threat that he had never felt before. Suo Hitaki laughed and flew into the sky. King Piccolo, I'll show you the true mystery of this world. Suo Hitaki chuckled and performed wood release. This happened to be an oasis, and there were still some forests next to it. The thick trunks rose from the ground and tied up Piccolo's entire body. This is not martial arts at all, it's simply magic. Bit was confused, and he flew up all of a sudden, trying to escape from Kusuo Hitaki's powerful wood release attack. But although Kusuo Hitaki didn't have as much chakra as before, he could perform these ninjutsu at will. The wood also obeyed Kusuo Hitaki's orders very well, and it rose up from the ground and rolled up Piccolo. I won't accompany you for long. I'm going to find Sun Wukong next. Do you want me to kill Sun Wukong before you do? Kusuo Hitaki roared and disappeared from Piccolo's sight. Chapter 399. Piccolo's teeth were clenched. He was tied up by the wood and his brain was dizzy. Kusuo Hitaki had the genes of Hashirama Senju. These trees have their own senses and consciousness. They will help Kusuo Hitaki to tie Piccolo up. How can I, the great demon king, be controlled by you so easily? He shouted and stretched out his fingers. A strong wave of light shot out from his fingers. In an instant, these trees crackled and were smashed to pieces by Piccolo. This was of course because Kusuo Hitaki was not around and his control was weakened. I'll remember you, bastard. One day, I'll kill you. Pico snorted and followed Kusuo Hitaki's trail and flew over. Suo Hitaki now used the feeling of chakra to feel where there was a strong energy. There was the most powerful energy on Earth, moving at high speed. This should be Son Goku's brother Raditz. He hasn't found Son Goku yet. Suo Hitaki wanted to get ahead of him, find Son Goku, and have a good fight with him. Although he could easily defeat Piccolo now, he was not sure that he would definitely defeat Son Goku. Because Son Goku was a big bug in the Dragon Ball world, he would become stronger when he met a stronger master, and he would stimulate his potential when he met a stronger master. Suo Hitaki was deeply curious about such a master. Suo Hitaki quickly flew to the island where Master Kame lived with his sense of feeling. Son Goku was taking Son Gohan to meet Master Roshi and Krillin. Krillin got a headache when he saw how tall Son Goku was. Wukong, how come you grow so fast? You used to be shorter than me, but now you are almost twice as tall as me. Krillin looked at Son Goku, envious and a little unwilling. Thinking back then, his strength was on par with Son Goku's. Now Son Goku has a wife and a son, and he is so tall and handsome. Compared with him, his life is too unsuccessful. Is it true? Why don't I remember it? Sun Wukong still had his signature silly smile and touched his head. We finally meet, so don't quarrel. Let's take a look at the embarrassing things together. Master Kame said lewdly. Bah, you are so frivolous. Bulma saw the lecherous look of the master and spit. However, these people are old friends, they just complain about each other, and the relationship is still very harmonious. Suddenly, Sun Wukong looked up at the sky with a serious face. Then Xiaolin and Master Kame felt something was wrong. They looked up at the sky and immediately prepared themselves. Hitaki Kusuo fell from the sky and appeared in front of everyone. Who are you? How can you have such a powerful energy? Sun Wukong had a determined look on his face, and he kept his eyes on Hitaki Kusuo. Sun Wukong had fought against all the powerful characters on Earth. But Hitaki Kusuo's facial features were so unfamiliar that Sun Wukong was sure he had never seen this person before. Wukong, you have to be careful. I feel that this person is not an ordinary person. Xiaolin stood beside Sun Wukong and was ready to fight. Suddenly, the two had been fighting and making noises before, but they were brothers after all. At the critical moment, Xiaolin had to take action. You are Sun Wukong, right? I have long wanted to compete with you to see who is the most powerful master on this earth. Hitaki Kusuo smiled coldly, and then formed seals with both hands. A huge fireball spurted out of Hitaki Kusuo's mouth. The warriors who knew the Dragon Ball world were a little surprised. They had seen all kinds of martial arts, but they had never seen a person spit fireballs from his mouth. Of course, this level of fireball would be different for any cage-level master in the Naruto world, let alone Sun Wukong. He swung his fist and immediately beat the fireball into ashes. It's really powerful, but my ninjutsu cooperates with each other, what can you do? Hitaki Kusuo formed 4 or 5 seals. Wind escape, fire shield, Raiden, earth escape. Where Sun Wukong and Xiaolin stood, the terrain immediately changed, and they were lifted high up by the ground. Ah, save me! Bulma shouted, and the girl was scared first. Don't panic, get behind me. Sun Wukong opened his arms to protect his friends. Then countless wind blades slashed towards Sun Wukong. Kamehameha. Sun Wukong and Krillin used Kamehameha at the same time. The power of these wind blades was offset at once, and everyone could counterattack Hitaki Kusuo. But they were not fast enough and were soon dodged by Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo stood in the sky, his left hand turned into a chidori, and rushed towards Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, my only target is you. Hitaki Kusuo sneered, he wanted to stimulate Sun Wukong's potential. Okay, then come on. Sun Wukong becomes stronger when he meets a stronger opponent. He hasn't fought with such a master for a long time. He flew into the air and suddenly appeared behind Hitaki Kusuo. With just one punch, he hit Hitaki Kusuo. But just when his fist was about to hit Hitaki Kusuo's neck, Hitaki Kusuo suddenly disappeared. Then Hitaki Kusuo appeared behind Sun Wukong. He continued to use Chidori and rushed over. Chapter 400. Hitaki Kusuo punched Sun Wukong on the back. Then Hitaki Kusuo took out the shuriken and stabbed Sun Wukong fiercely. Of course, he knew in his heart that this level of damage would never hurt him. Sun Wukong quickly dodged and flew to the other side. The blow just now only scratched his clothes. You are very powerful, aren't you from Earth? Sun Wukong narrowed his pupils and stared at Kusuo Hitaki. He felt that Kusuo Hitaki was not only powerful, but also that he had mastered many moves that Sun Wukong had never seen before. Over the years, he had fought with various monsters and masters on Earth. He knew all the moves of various schools on Earth. But he had never heard of Kusuo Hitaki's move. Kusuo Hitaki stood in front of Sun Wukong and nodded. Sun Wukong, I said I wanted your life before, it was a joke. As for my identity, you don't need to ask so many questions. You just need to know that I have no ill will towards you. What I want to do is to defeat and surpass you. Kusuo Hitaki said to Sun Wukong with a very immature attitude. If you say this to others, they may roll their eyes at Kusuo Hitaki. Think Kusuo Hitaki is a psychopath. But Sun Wukong is different. When he heard Kusuo Hitaki say this, he laughed out loud. You are an interesting guy. If that's the case, I will show all my strength and we will have a good fight. Sun Wukong flew to the sky. Then he opened his hands, and a strong energy gathered in front of Sun Wukong. Hitaki Kusuo knew that Sun Wukong was going to use the Super Kamehameha. Hitaki Kusuo also snorted coldly, and his pupils immediately turned bright red. Mangekyo Sharingan, open. Hitaki Kusuo snorted coldly and adjusted himself to the state of Mangekyo Sharingan. Next Hitaki Kusuo opened Susanoo again. The green Susanoo held a sword and rushed towards Sun Wukong. This was only the first stage of Susanoo, and its combat power was not particularly strong. But for the Earthlings who had never seen this level of battle, the sense of oppression was still very strong. My God, is this person an Earthling? I have never seen this. Kobayashi muttered to himself. Master Kame looked serious. He felt an indescribable and terrible aura from Hitaki Kusuo, and he had never seen it in his life. Kobayashi, go call Piccolo, Yamcha and the others over. Maybe this person cannot be dealt with by Sun Wukong alone. Master Kame said seriously. Hearing what Master Kame said, Kobayashi immediately reacted, nodded hurriedly, and then flew to the side. Of course, Hitaki Kusuo didn't pay any attention to Kobayashi at all. Even if Xiaolin called those people over, Hitaki Kusuo didn't care. Interesting, Kamehameha. Goku roared, and the Qigong rushed over, knocking off the head of Susanoo in one fell swoop. Of course, it didn't hurt Hitaki Kusuo at all, and Hitaki Kusuo felt a pain in his shoulder. This kind of power far exceeds any ordinary ninjutsu. Even the dust shield in the Naruto world is nothing compared to Kamehameha. Amaterasu. Hitaki Kusuo performed Amaterasu again. Control.